Alola! I'm the official name rater. My job is to look through the first page of Google, review the nicknames provided by the internet, and then give my recommendations at the end. Today we're looking at our next starter, the fire one, Litten, Torracat, and Incineroar. And I'm going to hit you with a hot take. I think Torracat's design is better than Incineroar's, and I think Torracat's probably one of the best middle stage evolutions of any Pokemon, just in general. Feel free to leave your opinions down below. Alright, well we started Decidueye with Rancor, we might as well go ahead and do this too. So, let's start off Wildfire, generic fire-type nickname. We've seen this in the past lots of times before. It's totally fine. I feel like I remember it pretty particularly with Arcanine, but I mean, I don't really see why it can't work with Incineroar as well. They both have the tiger stripe pattern to them. Right below we've got El Tigre, which I looked and I know that is one of our comment suggestions based off the Nickelodeon show and character. Also just means the tiger in Spanish. Now this is one where I'm going to have a small little bias and ignore the foreign-based nicknames. So feel free to yell at me if you want to. But this is off a Nickelodeon show, so that's totally fine. Wasn't that Mucha Lucha? I could be wrong, but I feel like that's Mucha Lucha. So I'm fine with that. Below that, Zuko. From Avatar, we've seen Zuko and Azula plenty of times in the past before. I'm totally fine. I have no real problem with any of it. I think it's great. Oh, I never even thought about the idea of Cheeto before, but I fucking love it. Especially we're talking... Oh my gosh! Oh, I really want Cheetos! Alright, I'm writing that one down. I don't actually want Cheetos. I'm of the opinion that Cheetos... They're not bad. I just never eat them and never want them. And I feel like, because, you know, marketing says the color red is inspiring you to eat and be hungry. And I'm like, it inspires me to not eat it because I don't want it. I liked it as a kid. But I just love the nickname Cheeto and Cheetos because Chester Cheetah, you can get it. And they're both cats. Not quite the same. Who gives a fuck? Flamin' hot. It works very, very well. I'll acknowledge this one just because it's relevant. Now, I also got another recent comment suggestion about another professional wrestler, but this one says Undertaker. I don't really think it fits Undertaker. Someone else put Kevin Owens because Kevin Owens is the heel wrestler or whatever. But I think the one that 100% solidifies it best, and I would actually use this if I didn't pick my own idea instead, Kane. Because they're both associated with fire and have the exact same color scheme. So to me, if you're going to pick a professional wrestler, Kane, 100% the way to go. Like, their design is actually pretty similar. It's really cool to think about because I never even thought about it. So that's my choice for professional wrestler. But Undertaker and Kevin Owens, that's totally fine. You want to do you. I think Undertaker's not going to fit that one. You got to pick a ghost or a dark. Well, I mean, he's a dark type. But all the same, Kane is best choice. Wrath for generic, Binding of Isaac Bayonetta style nickname if you want to. Master Royal makes sense, actually. I'm okay with that one. It's actually kind of fun because I feel like Kukui has a few iconic Pokemon. Like, I think of him with Rockruff, but I mean, Incineroar is definitely what he's canonically shown with as his thing. So I think Master Royal is a good choice too. And then right below that, we got Nacho Libre. We saw this during the Halucha episode. I think that's gonna, and I mean, I could say the same thing with El Tigre, but I think it's gonna fit better on that because of the Luchador style, but at the same time, like, I understand you're just going wrestling. And then we're trying to make a Tony the Tiger for Frosted Flakes. It'd be better if Tony, you know, instead you just call it Frosted Flakes instead of just Tony. We didn't call it Chester, we called it Cheetos, and it worked better. I'm okay with Tabasco. I feel like I've seen Tabasco in the past before. I'm not sure. I feel like it, but like, I'm fine with food-based nicknames, so that's totally fine. We've seen so many things, and it works really well. It's weird. Fire types and just food blend together so well because of spicy foods. Like, it's strange, but yeah, I'm fine with that. Below that, we got John Cena as another wrestler. That's not going to work because, as people are saying in wrestling lingo, heel is the bad guy wrestler. John Cena was a face or the good guy wrestler. He started off as a bad guy, and, you know, that got him popular, but he stayed as a good guy for most of the time. So, I don't think that's going to work, but I understand John Cena's just the one, like, he's the Hulk Hogan of it, where everyone knows he's a wrestler, and that's it. Which is funny, a lot of people didn't know The Rock was a wrestler, and I think that's embarrassing. I'll acknowledge Hobbs from Calvin and Hobbs. I don't really think it's the best choice. But just to say you tried, sure. We got some fictitious tigers going on and things here. Or Tigger. There's another one for you. Again, not one I would personally use or recommend, but sure, another fictitious tiger. And then right below, I don't know anything about this, I just know it's a name from Street Fighter and that's it. You're gonna have to tell me how good of a choice it is, but I recognize the name Balrog. I don't even know what he looks like. Is he the big bald dude with the beard? If I'm spot on, cool, but if not, I don't have a clue. We can acknowledge Cheshire, because Cheshire Cat, Alice in Wonderland. I think we saw this a decent bit during the Gengar episode, because do you get it? It's got the smile. Incineroar kind of doesn't do that, so in my opinion, not the thing. Thundercat, if you're going to use that, I don't know why you wouldn't pick Electivire, which is a Thundercat, but whatever. And then we got two more wrestlers in Iron Sheik and Ric Flair. Iron Sheik, I remember being a bad guy, but I don't know. I feel like there's a bit of a cultural difference between what I assume Incineroar would be portrayed as versus Iron Sheik. And then Ric Flair, I mean, he did a little bit of both. I think he was more of a good guy than a bad guy, but another wrestler for you. If we're going to do the Lucha theme, I think Lucha Tigre is actually a nice play on words with that. I did see Garfield on that little 200 best creative nicknames that was definitely compiled by a real human. We swear we're not an AI. Indo-Pacific Incineroar. Anyway, Garfield is an idea. There's another little fictitious cat for you. I wouldn't personally use it. I don't particularly care for it, but we're just acknowledging it because do you get it? There's a lot of cats in fiction. I feel like I've seen Drax in the past before because I'm decently sure I actually have it written down as a nickname idea. But, I mean, there's some for you. I always saved it for generic fighting type nickname, but I mean, he got the wrestling connection. Which I want to say my favorite thing about Batista being an actor now is the fact that he actually got to play a James Bond villain. And if we ever actually get back to the heyday of James Bond games being good again, it would be so great to be able to play a James Bond game and have fucking Batista be a multiplayer character. That would make me happy. Okay, I did see Wrath at the top and I didn't understand it, and now I understand it. And there was also Wrath with a W, so there's that. Sure, I don't Ben 10, but there you go. Okay, I'm going to go over a couple of these real quick just for the sake of it. I saw Scar, and I figured Lion King, and Mufasa, figured Lion King. I'll just acknowledge that. I don't really particularly care for them. And then I want to acknowledge John Cena Roar, because that's at least better than just John Cena. You're making a pun out of his name. I still don't think it fits, but at least you're trying a little bit harder. Okay. Honestly, I'm not too surprised we're seeing this idiot again. I imagine we might see him again on Primarina too. But anyway, Hell Tiger. I'm pretty sure I saw that on Ranker and chose to ignore it because it literally sounded like the kind of thing an 8-year-old comes up with to try and be cool and edgy. So, no, not at all. Undertaker, we already talked about. And I mean, we'll give credit. He gives acknowledgement saying he didn't invent The Undertaker. The Undertaker's real, but he also said something about children's show. This is the children's show. Anytime he ever tries to link something, it's always broken, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. Wrath Cage, no, there's nothing. I mean, Wrath we already talked about. Wildfire we already talked about. Cage is no. So we basically covered everything already, and there's nothing really to talk about here. I don't know, I kind of want to roast him, being like, oh, you should have went with Kane instead of Undertaker if you knew anything, but I'm just going to assume he didn't, so whatever, I'll leave it alone. I just want you to real quick see this. It says 820, right? There's no way there's 820, and there's no way I'm reading them all, because I already just read the first 3, and that's enough for me. When the very first thing on your list is Goober, I'm done. There's no way I'm sitting through 819 more of this shit. Hi, question. I think I saw Jasmine on Ranker as well, and I gotta really ask this. Why, instead of naming after the princess who has the tiger, you don't just name it after the fucking tiger itself? You know what that tiger's name is? Raja. I already knew that, because I was like, hey, that bitch is cool. She's got a fucking tiger, and she says the tiger's name. And I was like, that's a cool name. So I don't get it, man. Maybe it's not that interesting from a cultural standpoint, because maybe that could just be some generic name, like maybe she named her tiger Bob and Arabian or whatever, but all the same. I don't get it. Why are we naming it Jasmine when we don't just name it Raja? What's wrong with Raja? You don't name, like if you had a pet cat and you're like, oh, I want to name my Incineroar after my cat, you don't name it after yourself. A scented candle company? You need to go to Litwick for that episode, my guy. We already talked about the idea of Yankee Candle the Chandelure. Member of the Fire Tribe from Fire Emblem Paints. I'll let my brother tell me how good of an idea Rinka is. He's been kind of sour on Fire Emblem lately. Like, they've gone in a bad direction. And then we already talked about Azula for Zuko. I do want to say, though, the idea of Tiger Mask. kind of like that. And if you're gonna do this thing, go first and last name. Just reminder, it's not that fucking hard. But the idea of tiger mask, like, that's not bad either, and also fitting with wrestling. And then, like, God forbid you try and read more, and it tells you to sign up because reading is illegal. But that's it. We've reached the bottom. Incineroar has been half as long so far. It's actually like maybe a third from what Decidueye was, so it's going to be a much shorter video. But it's nice, I guess. Spreadsheet has significantly less, and literally nothing of interest, so that was a waste of my time. Going over the comment suggestions, though, we'll start back with LT Gray, because I got mine numbered differently. We'll go with LT Gray again, you know, bring that one back up. We'll go to Chaotic then, for Sircon, the pyrophobic tiger villain from Jungle Book. Okay, that's fine. Sumatra, Starbucks drink, dark roast. Yep, both of those are fine. I feel like Sumatra is something else in the world. I don't know, I could be wrong. And then I was actually surprised to see somebody else put this, because I had the exact same idea. And when me and my brother were racing, we'll call it, against each other in Gen 7, I picked Litten as my starter because I had the idea of naming it this myself. Furio Tigre, after the character from Ace Attorney. Like, they have the exact same color scheme as well, because it's, you know, he's Phoenix Wright, but he's red. So it's just like, oh, it's perfect, and he's got the name Tiger in his name, and it's there. So, like, again, on its own, foreign-based nicknames are dumb, and if it weren't for that, like, you know, I wouldn't use it or recommend it. But because of Ace Attorney, I'm giving a slide and letting it pass and stuff like that, in the same way I'm giving El Tigre a slide and a pass. I don't know. You could look at it either way. You could say, hey, you're wrong, or you could say, hey, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But I just like the idea of that, and I'm surprised and happy to know somebody else was on that same wavelength as me. It's been real, brother. That's the one I personally use. And then as far as just bringing up things that were mentioned in the video and worth highlighting, Masked Royal, I like that as, you know, a nice signature trainer kind of thing. Which, by the way, the reason Hao's theme was associated with Decidueye is also because of the anime. Kane, if you're going to pick a wrestler, Kane, in my opinion, is the best choice. You can pick whatever you want, but I think you're not going to do any better than Kane. And then Cheetos, which I just liked. I just thought that was good. Significantly less for a Pokemon that I thought was going to be way more popular. And if I knew where to find a clip of this, I would find it. But my favorite description ever for Incineroar is just a big hot pussy. So any other ideas and suggestions you have, feel free to put in the comments below. Give a thumbs up to the ones you think are good. And then in addition, if you want to mention which mid-stage Pokemon, be it starter or otherwise, you think is really cool designed or underrated or whatever, feel free to let me know. I remember liking Charmeleon as a kid, but Torracat, objectively better design than fucking Incineroar in my opinion. Objectively, subjectively, who cares? I said it, it is fact.